Hi, today from Madrid, Spain. Today we'll be talking about the coming and going of monetary systems. See you in a second. The coming and going of monetary systems. What I mean about that? This is the concept that in our everyday lives we think that everything about money is pretty stable. We have a certain currency in our country. There is let's say a dominant global currency, the world exchange currency, and there is a certain monetary system, way the money gets created, what is money, how money gets created, and how it circulates in the economy. And this seems pretty stable in a short term. But if you take a longer period or longer time frame, like one generation, several generations, 100 years or several hundred years, these things aren't stable at all. They change. The institutions come and go. The currencies appear and fail. The monetary systems, they change. They also reveal the weaknesses with with progress in society, with progress in technology. Some shortcomings of monetary systems become apparent, and they change, they evolve, and some systems fail, and maybe they get improved or they migrate to new systems. And I'll give you some examples about, let's say, institutions. Today, this is the year 2023, in the States, every several weeks, every month, sometimes as of today, 2023, in the United States, banks fail. So let's say money institutions fail on regular basis. Sometimes it is in a distance of weeks. Sometimes it's several banks in a week. We had several bankruptcies this year. And every bankruptcy means, of course, strategy for depositors, maybe for bank owners, so life savings get lost. Of course, there are some protections, but they don't protect everybody and every case and every amount of money. So every such change is connected to some let's say trouble for people, sometimes for society, for organizations. So this is the lowest level. Bank institutions failings, or let's say financial institution failings. These can be banks, these can be insurances, these can be other financial institutions. Then we have currency failings. A currency can fail or get exchanged for different reasons. A currency in a certain society can get exchanged for another currency due to some major social shifts, like a war, hyperinflation, maybe a system change. Like in Eastern Europe, they were countries changed from communist to capitalist system, and they exchanged the currencies to symbolize the new free market society. But usually it is connected to some human tragedies. People lose their life savings in a hyperinflation or in a war or a secession. They are always, of course, winners and losers in such shifts. But currencies fail generally, especially in the new monetary system that I will be talking about, that is dominant today. there are more and more currency failings. They are more frequent, and generally currencies divide in those who failed already or in those who will fail soon. So then we have the level of global currencies. The currency, the dominating exchange currency, that is usually connected to the dominating empire. In ancient times, it was, of course, the Roman Empire around Europe, let's say, or let's say the Mediterranean, and the currencies of global empire were actually the broadly accepted currencies also outside of Roman Empire, and they were circulating as this dominating exchange currency in international trade. Of course, most of the trade was within the empire, but also outside of the empire, these currencies were used. And then we had a period of very democratic exchange, international exchange, meaning we had a free competition of currencies that circulated around Europe, and they were minted, and this is a very interesting aspect. They were minted by private companies, by private mints who issued these currencies, giving them some credibility, some quality standards, and so on. And these currencies in these systems, of course, they were based on metals, on precious metals. It was usually gold or silver. So these coins, they circulated around Europe pretty much freely, and they stood in a competition to each other, were accepted broadly in Europe. And then, of course, the first global empires came up, and the very first global empire was Spain. And that's the reason why I'm talking about that here from Madrid, Spain. And why was it the first global empire? Because it was the first empire where the sun didn't set. Because it's the ancient empire of Rome. It went from generally Spain, Gibraltar, Morocco, to the Middle East, more or less. And these were Hercules columns, say the legendary Hercules columns of Hercules in Spain and in Morocco, saying with the saying non plus ultra, which meant nothing beyond that, right? There is nothing beyond Spain, there is nothing beyond Morocco. This was the end of known world. Roman Empire was a huge empire, but it wasn't a global empire. Then Spanish, with the discovery of America and other parts of the world, Spanish established the first global empire where the sun never set. It went from, of course, the parts of America were Spanish colonies. Then, of course, the motherland, the center of the power, was here in Spain. Then there were colonies in Africa, and there were colonies in Asia, as far as the Philippines. Philippines get the name from the name of Spanish king, I think the Philip II. So this was a huge empire, and of course with that empire the Spanish peso was the world dominant currency that circulated, was accepted most broadly in the world. This was the strongest currency, which of course then get replaced by the next currency, because it got hyperinflated, or it get inflated through the huge imports of gold and silver from the mines in America, in the Americas and other parts of the world. And the next empire was the Dutch Empire with I guess gulden or florin was the dominant currency there at that time. Then the British pound came up, and at the end dollar. And dollar actually we have until today. So the dominant empire always established their currency as the world exchange currency. And of course, these changes of these world exchange currencies, they were connected with major shifts in international politics, in the international, let's say, construction of power, and of course wars and so on. So you could say, you know, the Second World War was the shift from pound to dollar as the last example, but there are also these let's say systemic shifts. So these changes in the tissue of monetary system are not the changes on the highest level. These are changes in the world reserve currency or world exchange currency, but the highest level is actually the shifts in the monetary system. And there were only several shifts in the history, in the human history, in this monetary system. Of course, at first we had like a democracy of monetary systems, like means of exchange. They were like you could use salt, you could use I don't know, like natural, like cows or whatever. Then the metals came up, and the metals became dominant, like the basis of monetary system, right? So every monetary exchange was payment in coins generally. So like ancient Romans, they had like boxes of coins at homes. These were the money deposits, right? Because there was no paper money and so on and so on. Then in 17th century in China, it was earlier, paper money was invented. And paper money, I was talking about that in earlier episodes from Stockholm, from Sweden, because the European paper money was actually invented by the Swedish in Sweden. At first it was of course the generally certificates for gold deposits which you can use in payments. This was very, of course, convenient and was very flexible and so on. It had many advantages to use that paper certificate of gold deposit. And this paper money had also some drawbacks, some disadvantages, and one of them was of course it invited for manipulation, and things like fractional reserve were possible with paper money, meaning that you had more certificates that actually gold in your deposit. So you could issue, banks could issue more certificates than they had deposits to actually avoid bankruptcy or to get more liquidity or to get some profits without anybody noticing. And they could do that to a certain point, to the point where people started, let's say, first of all, of course, it lowered the value of the money, it caused inflation. And on the other hand, it's when people got suspicious about this activity, about, you know, suspicious that the bank would be issuing paper without deposits, they would make a so-called bank run. They would organize or they would cause a so-called bank run, meaning they would go just to the bank to demand their deposit back, and where there were enough people to do that, the bank would become illiquid or will be forced to declare bankruptcy, because since they had much more certificates than deposits, they couldn't, of course, give away all the gold that were required or that was requested by the people who wanted the money back, the gold back. So this paper money caused inflation and also caused currency failings, because when it was sanctioned by the government, then of course the government or the ruler, the king, was also tempted to actually print much more money than he had gold in his chest to improve his liquidity, to improve his finance, to maybe to finance a war or some other project. And there was also another system change that was actually before paper money. It was the transition from free market of currencies to let's say legal tender laws, meaning that the countries, the rulers, the kings started to require the population, the citizens, to use certain money in their business transactions, and it was the money that was minted by the royal mint, by the mint in the possession of the ruler, of the king. Why? Because before paper money, this was the way to actually manipulate currency, to actually extract value from the economy without borrowing money, right? So they could mint their own coinage, their own coins, and more or less control the quality and the quantity of that minting, meaning they would collect gold from the population, give them the value of that gold in their coinage, but then they would, with the next release, decrease the amount of gold in the new coins and extract, and the difference they would pocket as their profit, or as the improvement in the liquidity. And the next release would be like a smaller coins, or maybe coins with some addition of other metals that were less precious, and the next edition would be even less and less and less, and so on. So they would be spoiling the coinage, the quality of the coins, and in this way also making the money less and less valuable, causing kind of an inflation in the sense of loss of purchasing power. So this phenomenon existed before paper money, inflation, but with paper money it was much easier to extract the value from the economy for the rulers, and this as a so to say consequence of that value extraction was inflation. And this is actually the system that we have, that how it works today also. But in addition to that, in 1970s we had a so-called Nixon shock, where so before that, the dollar, after the wars, the dollar was established as the world exchange currency, and at that time already dollar wasn't exchangeable for money for gold anymore for private people, and it was actually forbidden even to own gold for Americans. But United States said, we have all that gold in our chest, in our treasury, in the treasury of Federal Reserve, and these dollars that we emit internationally, that we issue internationally, they are covered by the gold in the treasury of Federal Exchange. And if a country wants to exchange that dollars for gold, they can do that. So this was the status starting from the late 1940s, but then roughly 30 years later we had this Nixon shock, where America realized, the gold deposits are getting drained, and they said they are no longer exchanging dollars for gold. also not even for the countries that demand that have the dollar reserves and want to exchange it for gold. So from that point on, we had a, let's say, 100% fiat system, meaning all the currencies in the world are somehow convertible to dollars, more or less, but the dollar isn't convertible to anything else. It is just based on faith, on the belief that this dollar, that this note has some value and a specific value, and this is called fiat money, right? So generally the currencies, you could say, are covered in the ability of governments to extract value from the economy. So to tax people or to extract value in any other kind, and the world dominating currency, world exchange currency is dollar. But as I said, it hasn't been like that all the time, and the weaknesses, the drawbacks, the disadvantages of that system are more and more apparent every day. And when you were following this channel, you will know that we are expecting to, a major system change in coming years. We don't know how long this transition will take place, but we are here to inform so that people can prepare, that we can get prepared to that new system and to get position ourselves in a way that we are the winners of this transition and not the losers, right? Because there will always winners and losers. I hope there won't be any global conflict that will be connected to that shift in this monetary system, but for sure there will be major economic shifts, and many people will lose their lifestyle savings. Many people will come into dire conditions, but there will also be many or some winners of this transition, and I hope you and me will be winners. And let's spend some brain juice on trying to foresee the changes, the upcoming system, and to position ourselves adequately so we can take advantage of these changes. And I think this will be a change back to a private issued currency, but this time it will be a currency that isn't controlled by anybody and that can't be manipulated easily or can't be produced easily. And such a currency is for example a Bitcoin. I don't know if this will be a Bitcoin, maybe it will be a system of CBDCs. What is clear is it will be some sort of a digital currency, and it will need to be a kind of maybe democratic, but democratic in the international sense. So maybe CBDCs will be part of that system. Maybe this would be a system of CBDCs only that are somehow connected to one blockchain, that are somehow interchangeable or exchangeable. We don't know at the moment. I don't know at the moment. But what is clear is two things. One of the things is that there is a transition phase. There will be a phase where the old and the new system will be valid, will work in parallel, and also parts of the old system will migrate to the new system. Like, for example, you could take stable coins as elements of the old system in the new system. Stable coins are nothing else than a representation of dollar in the new digital system, in the system of cryptocurrencies, let's say, right? Also, in the past there were these transition phases, and also elements of the old system in the new system. For example, this is a good example here from Madrid, from Spain, when dollar was established. I was telling you before about these columns of Hercules. Spain and Morocco, non plus ultra, nothing far beyond. When Spanish established the coat of arms in 1942, when America was discovered and when Spain was unified, because before that there were several kingdoms that were fighting against each other, and there was also half of Spain more or less was occupied by the Arabs. And in 1492 the Arabs were defeated, and the last Arab foothold in Iberic Peninsula fell. It was Granada. Spain was united. At the same time, America was discovered, and there was also Jews were expelled from Spain at that time. So the only Christianity and Catholic Christianity was declared the state religion. It was only allowed to be Christian, Catholic in Spain at that time, 1492. So it was a very important date for Spain for three reasons, like political, international, and also social reasons, religious reasons. So you could say Spain was rediscovered, and they created the coat of arms. And one of the elements of this coat of arms was these two Hercules columns and a band around them saying plus ultra. So more beyond that, right? So the from what in ancient times was impossible, nothing beyond that, Spanish made possible. So they extended the world. They know the world as we know it, to making it global, and they extended their empire, their rule, to a global rule, to a global empire. So plus ultra is these two Hercules columns and a band around that was an element of the coat of arms of Spain. And when dollar was established by George Washington, it was the end of 18th century. Peso, Spanish peso, or the Spanish currency, which wasn't peso anymore, it was a Spanish dollar at that time, was a world dominant, was still the strongest currency in the world. And coinage came from the colonies of Spain in South America and in Mexico, which were the largest silver mines at that time. And the dollar that was established in the States was actually a copy of this Spanish peso, in the sense of the weight, the material, and also the size. And they took over the symbol of the dollar. They took over from the Spanish coat of arms these two columns and the band, the S, right? So they have the S, the two columns crossing the S, and this is the symbol of the dollar. So the old system somehow got continued in the new system, and this will be also the case with the upcoming systems. So we have like the symbolic, also we have this columns again in a Bitcoin system, for example. We have stable coins. We will have probably CBDCs in the new system as well. So there will be some continuation, there will be some parallelity, but this will be a major change in the system, and let's prepare for that. Let's position ourselves accordingly. So I wonder what your ideas about this are, how the new monetary system, how the new financial system will look like. What will be the major changes, maybe the major events, upcoming events that we need to get prepared for. I invite you to leave comments below. That's it from Spain, from Madrid. I hope you liked it. Give me a thumb if yes, of course thumb down if not. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this video with your loved ones, with your friends. One day they will thank you for that. I talk here a lot about economy, about money, about cryptocurrencies, about doing great impossible things in life and business. So if you like this video, you will certainly like my other videos. I invite you to watch them. That's it for today. I wish you a fantastic day. Let's do something extraordinary today.